Hi, my name is Ryan. Today I'd like to talk about Roll7's Laser League and how it innovates on the bullet hell subgenre of games. Roll7 have been making some of the most interesting and polished games of the last few years. Ollie Ollie was tightly designed and steals all the time of your day before you notice it's disappeared. Not a Hero delivers its tantalisingly absurd comedy through jarring cutscenes before and after a level. Laser League continues on the studio's innovative work by ascribing to the dynamics of a bullet hell with what seems like fundamental changes to how the subgenre is constructed. I'll talk about these two main changes in the game through its indirect form of offensive action and its competitive multiplayer component. Bullet hell games, or danmaku in Japan, is a very descriptive subgenre of games. The screen fills up with bullets or harmful projectiles and the player must maneuver their avatar around them. It can form the entire base of a game, or the formula can be changed and altered by certain mechanics, like in Arikuruga where you change polarity to glide harmlessly through light or dark bullets. It can play second fiddle to other elements like in Soft Body, where you control two different entities. Some games like Undertale contain certain moments where the player is confronted with an onslaught of bullets, but this is contained to small parts of the game. Identifying enemy movement patterns, bullet spread and acceleration are all part of the bullet hell experience, alongside moving in safe pathways through the bullets. Bullet hell type movement can arise in a lot of different control schemes, with twin stick shooters being a popular format for the subgenre. If this wasn't quite enough, players are usually tasked with firing back their own bullets at the enemies on screen, making for a quite dizzying and colourful ballet at times. Laser League is a game developed by Roll7 and published by 505 Games. It released into early access in 2017, with full release in 2018. It's described as a competitive sports game, but I'd like to argue for its case as a bullet hell, or at the very least a fascinating subversion of the bullet hell. 2 or 3 players line up on each team and race around the arena to activate nodes which emit lines of coloured light. In this example, the green team can pass through lines of their own colour, but if they pass through the purple lines, they will be KO'd. When each member of a team is KO'd, then the other team gets a point. So each team races to activate these nodes. Each player has a particular character class which can allow them to steal nodes or body check opponents or temporarily pass through the lasers of opponents. As time passes, nodes appear more frequently and emit longer and more dangerous lasers. Laser League takes the patterns of movement which are familiar in bullet hell games and twists them to make an entirely new experience within the subgenre. Whilst quick reactions are almost a necessity in bullet hell games, so is the ability to identify patterns of bullets so that the player knows how best to move around them. Mark Johnson categorises bullet patterns into 3 main archetypes: fixed, random and aimed. The first has an enemy firing a set pattern of bullets that may, for example, crisscross and travel in a certain arc. Random points to a stream of bullets emanating from an enemy in seemingly chaotic numbers and directions, whilst aimed regards bullets fired at the player's current location in the level. What is important to note is that in bullet hell games, these patterns emanate from an enemy who can remain static in the level or travel around. Laser League turns this idea on its head by disembodying the bullet patterns from any NPC or enemy that needs to be destroyed. The patterns are instead a part of the level as nodes, where they can be activated by any player running over it. Each node in the level has a fixed pattern and movement. As time goes on, with both teams still active, these nodes will be replaced with more dangerous patterns. What is fascinating about this is that with the patterns being disembodied from an NPC or enemy, the player's eye is drawn unnaturally away from their opponent, which can give rise to potentially fatal outcomes. Usually in video games, your eye is fixed squarely on your opponent, aiming attacks and defensive moves directly their way. Bullet hells do tend to complicate the screen in a way where the player's eye is focused on dodging, but in the example of twin stick shooters, players can use a second directional stick or attack button to fire in the general direction of their opponent. Activating a node in Laser League is an indirect offensive action. To win, you must eliminate your opponents, and for a lot of the character classes, the player's attention can be fixed on the objective of activating as many nodes as possible. This means, quite paradoxically, less attention on what your opponents are doing. For obvious reasons, this can present problems for players in Laser League. The player cannot rely on AI patterns of movement like in other bullet hell games. When your opponent is a human player, there's a chaotic game of chess being played in regards to player movement. If players are too busy watching the nodes, then their opponents can truly surprise them. It turns the regular reaction and pattern memorization of bullet hells into a challenge of predicting and accounting for the movement of your opponents. Can they make it to that node before me? Are they trying to bait me into reviving my teammate? And when are they going to use their special ability? Prediction requires a different skill set to memorizing patterns. Of course, it is all further complicated by the typical bullet hell movement patterns still required of players. Concentrating on the indirect offensive actions and predicting human player movements creates a fascinating player dynamic within the genre: split perception. This runs parallel to Zeke Varant's split mind control scheme for Soft Body, where level designs were created around teaching players how to control two entities at the same time using twin stick controls. While Soft Body asks difficult motor movement skills of the player, Laser League asks them to split their perception among several different elements. An individual player can be continually torn between focusing on activating nodes and watching out for what enemy players are doing. The lasers also get in the way of this. What results is a kind of triadic perceptive requirement between the main objectives of tactical play: avoiding lasers, activating nodes, and watching your opponents. It is this split perception which is the enduring appeal of Laser League, as players continually get better at managing their position in relation to the nodes, other players, and the lasers themselves. But it manages to go beyond this because it is a team-based competitive game. Playing with others in this game means dividing these responsibilities among the team with their different class choices. It's why perhaps Laser League is described as a futuristic sports game. Good communication and movement are key to navigating this dizzying competitive bullet hell. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to watch my last video on character arcs in Uncharted 4, then click on the link in the video. If you'd like to be notified when my next video releases, then click on the subscribe button.